Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with episode 2034 of the Cabral Concept. We are going over these 7 intermittent fast boosting benefits for the brain. And that is because a lot of times when we think about intermittent fasting, we're really focused on body transformation, weight loss, or maybe health of the overall body. But one of the things we overlook is that as we begin to age, let's say people get into their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, many people, and rightly so, are more worried about an aging brain. They're worried about forgetting their family's names and all their different memories, and also their ability to perform at a cognitive level like they could 20, 30, 40 years ago. So the good news is this: you honestly do not need to worry about those things no matter how old you get. And that's the truth, as long as you are following certain health-based principles. I've spoken about those before in my book called The Rain Barrel Effect. Again, that book is completely free now. You can grab that at stephencabral.com. You can get it over at amazon.com, at most countries around the world. All profits go to charity from that book. But that teaches you what you need to do to live a long, healthy life that spans everything from autoimmune issues to headaches, to migraines, to allergies, to brain issues, to learning disabilities, etc. So you really want to check that out if you haven't already. It takes you step by step into the 10 toxins as to why we don't get well, and then using the de-stress protocol that I've used in my practice now for 20 years, working with over 250,000 people, that teaches you exactly how to basically empty that rain barrel and get well again. So that is just a little bit of hope for you before we get started on these 7 specific benefits of intermittent fasting for the brain. So an intermittent fast, just for those people that may be new to the show, and I'll link up all of the intermittent fast below today at stephencabral.com/2034. I've got about a half a dozen research articles. Anybody who likes to do the research, I'll link those up today as well. But let's talk about just a quick overview. Intermittent fasting is not eating typically every day for 12 hours or more. Or it could just be saying 2 days a week, I'm going to go 12 hours or more without eating. It really depends on your definition of intermittent fasting. The simplest way to look at it, the simplest way to really complete it, is to say, I'm going to stop eating at 6 or 7 at night, and then I'm not going to eat again the next morning until 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock. And that gives you a very simple 12-hour to 14-hour intermittent fast that almost anyone can do. Over 99% of the people. Type 1 diabetics, those people dealing with severe hypoglycemia or anything like that may not be able to. But again, you can speak with your doctor about those specific issues. So that is intermittent fasting, just in a little nutshell. Of course, it's not that simple, but I give many examples on previous shows. And then what we want to do is just highlight a word here today, a phrase called neuroplasticity. And I'm going to link up my previous show on BDNF that I'll be getting to, as well as neuroplasticity, also sometimes referred to as brain plasticity. So it's very, very powerful. You want to understand it. And it is one of the reasons why the people that just kind of master what we're talking about in terms of overall health don't need to worry about Alzheimer's or dementia or a lot of these cognitive decline issues. And the reason is that neuroplasticity is what allows you to create new nerve-based cells, or the actual synapses between nerves, or the nerves connecting from one to the other, that allow you to always be learning, always be pulling back up those memories, and not leading to the decline that we see with Alzheimer's, dementia, etc. So We are going to talk about neuroplasticity today, that reorganization of the synaptic connections, the ability to create new memories, to create new learning experiences, to improve overall cognition. Cognition is just your body's thinking-based capacity or your brain's capacity. So let's go into those 7 intermittent boosting benefits from doing your fast. And the first one is this. It is BDNF. So that's brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and that's just going to be referred to as BDNF. BDNF is stimulated while fasting. So longer than basically a 12-hour fast. And it is the same type of, believe it or not, neuroplasticity. So improvement in neuroplasticity. This is basically the production of a protein in our nerve cells called BDNF. And it allows us to begin to create, which is our second one, a new generation of nerve cells, specifically in the hippocampus. So let's take this back a step. We know that when we stop eating for a certain percentage of time, our body can then focus on repair and renewal. And that's no different than in the brain. So the brain says, oh, okay, I don't have as much to work on right now, and we'll be getting to inflammation in a moment. There's less inflammation. I can go about creating and regenerating and repairing the nerve cells in the brain, specifically those synaptic connections, which allow for the memories and the learning to take place. So this is really powerful because basically what it's saying is that we need to sleep, and we need to stop eating for a certain percentage of the day, certain time of the day, so that our bodies can go to work on the repair-based cycle. Too much in our society, in our culture, we're focused on the always doing more, eating more, just exercising more, everything more, which actually isn't always to our benefit. So it's funny though, because when I mention exercise, it immediately jumps into my mind because really there's 2 big ways that we know, and I have a whole podcast on this, so I'm going to link up the other podcast on BDNF. You can find that at stephencabral.com/2034. So another great way, though, to increase BDNF, neuroplasticity, brain plasticity, think of it, the ability to renew the brain, that's how you should think about that, is through exercise. So believe it or not, exercise, besides fasting, as long as it's not overdone and creates too much inflammation, is actually a great way to increase BDNF as well. All right, so number 1, BDNF, that's the main driver that we're talking about, the main protein that we're talking about, nerve cells of the regeneration, and this can create new nerve cells, so it can actually help. And I just shared that with you just last week on how doctors are helping people overcome Alzheimer's. Was that 2 weeks ago? Believe it or not, that was 3 weeks ago. That was on episode 2022. So episode 2022, 2 weeks ago, the 25 ways doctors are reversing Alzheimer's and dementia with a 90% success rate. I'm going to link up to that. That was episode 2022. And why that's really important and powerful is because they're using the power of BDNF. All right, one more point on BDNF. Number 3 is that it makes the current in new nerve cells more resistant to stress. This is absolutely phenomenal because think of it this way. When you first go to the gym, let's say you haven't been in the gym in 20 years, or let's say you haven't been in the gym for your whole life. If you were to go to do a workout and it was 3 sets of 5 exercises, you'd be inflamed and sore the next day, probably for like 2 or 3 days. Not a good idea, right? Your body is not accustomed to that type of stress. Now, is that stress good? Well, no, not at that moment. Those 3 exercises times 5, the 15 sets, not good for you. However, what would you be able to handle? Well, probably 1 set the first week, body weight exercises. You do well, great. We're going to do body weight the second week. We're going to do 2 sets of that, same exercises. Okay, no soreness still, great. Now we're going to do 3 sets. So now in 3 weeks, we can handle that stress load. It's the same thing with your brain. By giving your body a period of time of intermittent fasting, it allows you then to better be able to buffer stress. These new nerve cells are stronger. They have more, I don't want to use the word antioxidant, but like an antioxidant capacity that they're better able to deal with oxidative stress. And that's a very powerful thing to look at that because intermittent fasting, again, not just great for the body overall, but actually for the brain. And this is huge. So you'll be able to buffer the stress most likely of cortisol and other stresses like neurotransmitters like norepinephrine better if you're able to handle intermittent fasting. All right, that was number 3. Number 4, we go back to our friend autophagy. If you don't know about autophagy, this is, in a nutshell, we'll give a lot of nutshells here today, is the body's ability to clean itself up and repair during a time of normalized blood sugar levels, so in between meals, and specifically longer than 16, 18 hours is typically the minimum for big autophagy-based repair, and then 24 hours. So you're still getting it, though, overnight. If people like to say, well, I'm not going to get into autophagy unless I fast for 18 hours, 24 hours. Well, no, that's not true. That your body wouldn't be working very well if it wasn't always doing cellular cleanup. So it does. It just does it to a greater degree after the 18-hour mark, 24-hour mark, okay? And that's why we do more quarterly detoxes that allow for deeper autophagy. But the nice thing is, when you do fast, especially that 12 hours overnight, your body is getting into deeper autophagy and cellular cleanup. So this means that it's removing a lot of the damaged molecules and dysfunctional mitochondria in the body, right? And it's doing that at a much faster rate. It also helps, and this is really important, with not allowing for tumor growth. And it does that because the body is not in this anabolic state when it's not eating. So it's interesting. I always relate it as essentially this scale, this balance. Too much fasting, especially later in life, or if you're more of an ectomorph or Vata body type, too catabolic. Not good. That creates dis-ease in the body as well. Now, of course, too much anabolism, especially if you're more of a Kapha body type or endomorph, you're going to what? Well, that's going to lead to dis-ease as well. More weight gain, more potential tumor, etc. So we have to look at this. It's all a delicate dance. And so we want to look at, we need to be able to fast. We need to be able to get into autophagy to help kill cancer cells, to help with cellular cleanup. All the cells in our body give off waste to take care of that waste, to eliminate it then through our liver, then through our stool and our kidneys, and through our urine, and through our skin, and through our sweat. Those are the main ways we're able to get rid of that through natural detox-based processes. So autophagy, really powerful for the brain as well, because the brain needs cellular cleanup in its own right. All right, number 5 is you're able, and at a faster rate, able to repair neural synapses. So what does that mean? And then form new synaptic clefts, essentially, the ends of those neurons. So this means that when your body is producing more BDNF, there's more neuroplasticity. And so when this happens, it's actually, think about it as the repair crew can't work all day long, and they can't work on essentially framing the house, which is that synapse, the outside of it, which it connects then to the outside world. Technically, it looks like almost fingers that connect to other neuro synapses within the brain, and they send signals to one another. So they're not able to do that all day long. So what happens is when you give that body, say, oh, okay, this is our time for rest. This is our time for actual repair. That would be like when they're on the job site, when they're actually doing the repair-based process. So if you're someone that's really loaded up with inflammation, a lot of omega-6s, all those different things, you can say, okay, well, we can't repair right now. We're in a massive state of inflammation. So it's almost like you can't get out there and fix the roof on your house until it stops raining, right? It's got a leak. You can't get out there until it stops raining because it's a torrential downpour. How are you going to work up there? Okay, so what do? Well, what you do is, okay, after it's done raining, meaning like after all the food has come in, now you're able to say, okay, the rain has stopped. We're going to go out there. We're going to actually repair the frame of this house. We're going to patch up the roof so that we stop the leaking. And that's a big part as well. You can get that done faster during that fast. All right, number 6 is the gut. We're getting into the gut now. It's the gut-brain connection. So we have to understand that there's 500 million neurons, which we call the enteric nervous system, in our gut. So we've talked about it before, between the gut-brain axis, also sometimes called the little brain as our gut. And what happens is, if we always have food coming in, believe it or not, we are always exciting all of those 500 million different neurons. And if we're always exciting those 500 million neurons, it can send signals to the brain, especially if there's inflammation or food sensitivities or candida overgrowth or SIBO or parasites, that something is wrong. So there's now more brain excitivity. And we don't want that necessarily, because we cannot have excitivity of the brain without the opposite effect, which is the calming effect. Okay, so that's really important. They're called inhibitory neurotransmitters. Those are the serotonin and the GABA. We'll get to those in just a second. So what we have is, by overfeeding and overeating, we're stimulating the digestive tract too much, which is also stimulating the gut-brain axis. And if you have intestinal permeability, or AKA leaky gut, what it leads to then is more inflammation of the GALT, the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, and overall inflaming of the immune system inside of the body. Now, I guess a better way to put that would be is the immune system becomes more activated, and the more activated your immune system from all of the bacteria or waste product or proteins coming down your bloodstream, the more inflamed you're going to be. And that's just the way that it works. When the immune system turns on, inflammation is going to turn on. It doesn't mean that your body's doing anything wrong, but what it means is that the immune cells create some type of breakdown of those proteins, bacteria, etc., and that leads to inflammation. It's just part of the process. It's a normal process, but you don't want all of that leaking into your digestive system. So the nice thing is, even if you haven't fixed your leaky gut or your candida or your SIBO or your parasites or your H. pylori or your gut dysbiosis, imbalanced bacteria, what you can do is you can stop eating for half of the day, 12 hours of the day, 6 at night to 6 in the morning, 7 at night, 7 in the morning, however you want to do it. And what that enables you to do is, at least for half the day, well, you're getting less inflamed by the process of not eating those food sensitivities or feeding the candida and bacteria to a greater degree. The last one today, and again, these are all overviews today. If some of this seemed confusing, if some of this kind of seemed high level, I get it, I understand. However, I want you to know that there's literally a podcast that breaks all these down in more depth, and I will link those up today at stephencabral.com/2034. And for those people that are a little bit more advanced, great. There's all the scientific research if you want to get into that as well. The last one today is that if you want a happy brain, you must have a happy gut. So this goes along with the same principle. We need to give our digestive system a break. We need to also make sure that we are not feeding all of that candida overgrowth and SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, because if we have inflammation in our digestive tract, we are most likely not producing as many of those inhibitory neurotransmitters. Now, that inhibitory sounds bad, but believe it or not, it's just calming. It calms the overexcitation. It calms the stress. And one of those specifically is serotonin. So serotonin, it's widely believed now that it's about 95%. I had always heard around 90%. Now it's looked at as around 95% of that neurotransmitter is made in your gut. It then travels around through the body and to the brain as well. So if we want more of that happy, feel-good, calming neurotransmitter, we need to make sure that our gut is not inflamed. So intermittent fasting is a great way to help with gut inflammation. And then, of course, running a lab like the bacteria and parasite stool test, or the candida metabolic and vitamins test, or the IgG food sensitivity test. You can find all of those, all my recommendations at stephencabral.com/labs. If you're interested in those types of labs, or even doing something like the CBO protocol to rebalance that gut. So those are all great things that you can do, but I just want you to know that even if you don't have it all figured out yet, that intermittent fasting is a great first step. It's a great first step to just basically putting a little water on the fire, to calming the body, to allow for those repair processes, the rejuvenating processes to take place. And that's really what intermittent fasting allows your body to do. It innately knows how to heal itself, but you need to put it in the position to heal. And hopefully these 7 tips allow you to see that intermittent fasting is not just for your body, but also a big benefit for the brain. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show. For all the details, head on over to stephencabral.com/2034. That is where the show notes will be for today. And of course, if this was helpful, please do feel free to pass it along to anyone else you believe it could serve. Thanks so much for just tuning into today's show. And before you go, I want to make sure that you know that for the very first time ever, we are running a big 21-day functional medicine detox. So if you've been looking for a full body reset, a whole body reset in order to improve your sleep, improve your mood, lose a couple pounds, decrease the inflammation, rebalance hormones, get rid of those food sensitivities, and really feel so much lighter, so much more energetic just at the end of the 7 days, but hopefully you're continuing on for the 21 days. Well, that is what we have going on this September. We are starting as a community on September 20th. We're all joining together. You can start a week before, you can start a week later. That's okay. But we are joining together for a 7, 14, or 21-day detox. But the difference this time is this, that we are not providing support just for 7 days. We're providing support for the entire 21 days. We want people to make this their best and healthiest fall and winter ever. While most people, and again, rightly so, most people are worried about their overall health, and I get it, we want to make sure that you feel strong, that you feel optimized, that you are ready to go into this fall and winter-based season, and we want to be there for you. We are going to provide you free support every step of the way, free support videos every day. We're going to answer your questions every day and just be there for you, again, as a community with over 12,000 people inside of this global health community. It's an organic group of people, like-minded people that all join together. We didn't advertise, we didn't ask them to join, but we love it. People are referring other people to cabralsupportgroup.com. So that's the free support group. But the other thing is this, I'm doing the 21-day functional medicine detox. I am going to do my functional medicine detox starting on September 20th. If you'd like to join me, I love being able to do it with hundreds and typically it's thousands of people that are all joining together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together this offer at stevencabral.com/detox. It's just Steven with a PH, so it's STEPHENCABRAL.com/detox. What you're going to get right there is you are going to get the free detox course valued at $300, the free support for life inside of the Cabral support group. If you're not already a member, you are going to get a free detox as well, meaning we're doing a buy 3 get 1 free. So it's $100 value, completely free for you while supplies last and during this week. So all this week while supplies last, head on over to stevencabral.com/detox to save $100 and join us this September on your own 7, 14, or 21-day detox. Take care, everyone. Let us know if there's any questions.